She may be joining remotely, but I don't think so, because it's not work related that she's out of town, so I didn't think she would join us, but.
Well, we've got a quorum for sure, so we're
Did
good.
I say Kurt? Yeah, Kurt. Scott, and he's right there, so I was like, why am I not counting properly, but he's right there. Okay.
Okay, are we all ready? I'd like to call the February 28th meeting of the Leadville Historic Preservation Commission to order at 4 p.m. Could we have a roll call?
Commissioner Edwards,
Here.
Commissioner Lindquist,
Here.
Commissioner Spillman,
Here.
Commissioner Whittington,
Here.
Chair Martinik,
Here?
alternate Bailey, and alternate Flaviger.
Okay, are there any revisions to the agenda? And if there aren't, are there any? We can move right along with the motion to approve.
I move to approve the agenda for today's meeting.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No, okay. Now the approval of the minutes for February 14th.
As last time, my name is misspelled twice. So it keeps getting cut off before the last syllable. I didn't record exactly where they are, but if you just do a search by my name, you'll find it.
And I do apologize. I guess I get tired. I don't even know what to say.
Why, anybody, any other corrections or whatever? Does somebody want to move that we approve the minutes as corrected?
I'll move that we approve the minutes of the
Second?
HPC February 14th meeting with
Second.
corrections.
Second that.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anybody? No, okay. Moving right along. Now we have public comment on items not on the agenda. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on anything that's not on the agenda?
There's no public here that's not on the agenda.
Okay. Housekeeping items, saving places, summary. Well, I turned in my summary. Do I want to say more? I have to.
It's up to you. You don't have to. I just wanted to give you an opportunity, and I also wanted to clarify that because you and Steve both had them, I did include them in this packet as well, so that we just have them together, especially for people who didn't get to attend any of the sessions.
Okay.
So it's up to you whether you want to elaborate on what is in the packet.
I won't elaborate, but I will say that I put them in the order of interest, my interest, of course. I don't know if you guys are interested in the same stuff, but this preservation on the down low, that was pretty interesting because they had a lot of suggestions for things that HPC groups should be doing in the community to kind of raise awareness of themselves and, you know, what we're trying to do. And I thought one of the interesting things was that they thought we should groom somebody to run for city council if we wanted to, you know, have more people on council that would be favorable to our, not that I'm saying we should do that, but I mean, I thought that was interesting
I think it's interesting and something to think about and keep in the back of your mind. Not a bad idea at all.
Yeah, it would, well,
Joey.
I mean, we have our group here is so much more fun than the council, I don't know.
I have to agree with that.
But,
I'm afraid that you might be right. That might be really the only way to move our agenda forward is to do something like that.
yeah, and you know, if somebody wants to, whenever the next election is, we could talk about it, certainly. And either us or we could find somebody and encourage that person to run, you know, if it's somebody that,
Sure.
so. So I thought that was interesting. A lot of the things were interesting. We could do, like, give tours, and that kind of appealed to me, because I took one tour a number of years ago. Somebody came in, one of the professors who deals with Leadville a lot, and did a tour of the bars. And so the whole group of us went around to all the bars, and we heard the history of each, we drank at each. I played beer pong for the first time in my life, and wasn't bad. Or maybe I don't remember it quite well. I don't know. But anyway, but there are some things, you know, that maybe we can do more outreach that people would enjoy, and, you know, that
Sure.
had to do with history too, but whatever, that was fun though.
Yeah.
So anyway, the Main Street open for business. I put, since our building was one of the buildings that got funded, I just wanted to see what they had to say, and it was sort of interesting, and, you know, they said good things about the Herald Democrat building. That was great, as far as I was concerned, and they talked about, Hugo, and they had a facade improvement project. I guess a lot of cities have facade improvement projects. We don't really have that going here, but our facades are so much more elaborate, I think, than some of the cities, like Hugo, for example. A lot of those buildings that they, you know, that they improved, and they did a good job, but they weren't historic necessarily. They just, you know,
Did improvement.
they just wanted to do, so it looked, you know, painting and doors and windows and that kind of thing. But it had quite an effect, I think, on their businesses. And they opened they only had 11 buildings downtown. So we're not talking about a lot of buildings, but they opened, 2 of them were not, you know, they were vacant, and they now have businesses in them. So that's a big deal for Hugo. If I ever go to Hugo, and I think I've been there once, I would, you know, look at it carefully and see what they actually did, because that was interesting, that, you know, so that, you know, I didn't know about that. And the last thing, preservation challenges and opportunities, and Steve, you went to this one too, and I did, and you did,
I did.
and at least Lori and I had said, that was really a dense production, you know. I mean, there are a lot of different lists of things that went on, so.
A lot of information, almost an overwhelming
I
amount.
mean,
of
you couldn't sit
information
there and take notes
But-
on all that.
In a very drab type way, so, yeah. I
But-
like Steve's, the way he put it together, because then he had a lot of that list, he must have been either recording or writing.
I was scribbling pretty fast.
Yeah, I put some of the stuff in about the tax credits and the grants, but anyway, so there were some interesting things there, yeah, I will say. And we're finished now with that.
Yes,
And so we'll get our $75 back.
which brings me through with that part, I have a couple of housekeeping that aren't on the agenda.
Mhm.
One of them being, and then I realized that I registered you guys. Scott, I think you're the only one that registered yourself. But you need to get me your, receipt or your proof that you attended, so I can get you reimbursed for that by the city.
Okay,
And I believe Marcia and Steve, I registered you, right? So I
Correct.
have that receipt, and I will get
Mhm.
the scholarship, that's what I'm trying to say, I will get that turned in this week, because now that I have your written thing, we've had our meeting where you discussed what you learned, we've met all the criteria that
Mhm.
went with that scholarship, so now I can plug all that in and send off to get reimbursed for it.
Okay, good.
And then, the last exciting thing that I have is tomorrow is March 1st. So we should hear about the CLG grant. And as soon as I get that information, I will forward it to the commission.
Okay, we don't have to wait 2 weeks.
No, I'm not gonna make you wait 2 weeks. As soon as I get that email, or Scott, if you should get the email and I don't, just forward it to all of the commission and Chapin and myself, please. But I think I might get it because I was contacted briefly on something, but I'm just not sure which one of us will get it.
yeah, if I get anything, I'll forward it along.
But that's supposed to happen tomorrow, so that's kind of exciting.
Do we have any reason to think that they will be on time?
they're pretty regular,
Okay.
their deadlines are their deadlines, and when she said she would have the scholarship information by, I think it was the 17th of February or something like that. It came that day, that morning at like 8:15, so that's what I'm
Okay.
counting on to
Well,
happen
good.
tomorrow.
I guess we'll either get a yes or no. They'll say no, or will they just say yes and?
I believe they'll tell us either way,
Okay.
is that correct, Scott? Do you,
Yeah, that's my understanding, is that they won't just ghost us if they don't like us.
they won't leave us hanging, so they will tell us one way or the other, so.
Well, good,
We should hear from them
Well,
tomorrow.
we'll look forward to tomorrow. Okay, talking about grants, we have the 3 other grant applications. And we received these since the last meeting, we looked at them. Did you get your responses, enough responses?
Yeah, you and Kurt and Steve all sent some additions and corrections and suggestions, which I implemented, and then the main new thing that is included this time is the budget spreadsheet for each one. I think the Trail 100 Legacy was already in the previous thing just because it was sort of a part of that package, but then there's sort of separate budget templates for the other ones, which I finally got myself to sit down and complete. So if you all could look at those, make sure that things look as we want them to, and that it makes sense, then I think all of these, some of them have actual due dates in the next like 3 weeks or month, and some of them are rolling. But if we can get them finalized and submitted, then that would be good.
You don't want us to look at them right now again, though, do you, or do you?
I'm not sure if it's the best use of our time for us just to sort of sit here, but if we could have a goal of maybe everybody looking at them over the next week or something, and then if we could
Okay.
finalize them maybe like next week sometime, so that then Lori can do sort of final things and submit, if that sounds okay to you, Lori?
Yes, I think that's a great idea. I'm a little nervous about waiting until our next meeting to finalize, because some of the due dates are like March 15th, and our next meeting is March 14th, and that, I'm not real comfortable with that. So
Can we
I
make
think,
it this week, at the end of this week?
I think into next week would be okay. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, certainly before our next meeting. I don't know whether it would be better for people to make a sort of quicker deadline, so for comments, so that they will actually get on it, or whether it makes sense to sort of give people over the weekend.
I was thinking, and you guys tell me how wrong I am. I was thinking if we could have them due next Wednesday, the 8th, that would give Scott and I a chance to look over any corrections or anything that you guys might have given to us. And then I could still maybe get them out by Friday, the 10th. Because, I mean, that's kind of a goal that I'm shooting for. We could even go into Monday, the 13th. You know, before that, again, I just don't want to be cutting it that close. I'm just a little nervous about that. Scott, do any of these grants, or Steve, maybe you can answer this, do any of these need, a draft, and then to have them look over it and send it back with any comments or anything like that? Like CLG grants have, you know, some of those bigger grants have drafts that you can send in. Do any of these smaller ones?
No, they don't
No,
require that, they probably don't even want that.
okay. But that's my time frame is that would give you guys a full week, including a weekend from tomorrow to next Wednesday, the 8th, to get them back to us.
Okay,
And then Scott, would that give you and I enough time to look over it and get a final?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
looks good. And if we don't have anything further to change, let's say that. So,
Yes,
you know, you'd
please,
still get
yeah.
a response from us. And,
That would be helpful, because then we would know,
Did
you
you
looked
want-
at it and you're okay with it, or
did you want them sent to both you and Scott, or just to Scott?
just the thoughts.
Okay,
Just the thoughts, right?
okay,
it looks like the budgets are out of order here.
That may be, and that would be my fault, not Scott's.
So, yeah,
It may very well be.
the one that has all the orange fields
Uh-huh.
goes with the Climax grant.
Oh,
And the one that has green,
this goes with the legacy.
I think is the,
That's the LCCF, the Lake County Community Fund.
The
yeah,
green one,
yeah.
okay.
And I think that it actually appears a couple of times in the packet here.
Oops. Okay.
Yeah, I think it was included with the PDF that I got from the website, but I also included a copy of it separately in my email to Lori, because I didn't know that it would appear there as well. But you can gaze at it twice if that sort of
Apologize
makes
for
you
not
feel good.
thorough.
okay, we set everything done by the 8th, back to Scott. And it's hard to tell how these three will go. I think I feel like we have a decent chance with the CLG, but these,
And you know, I think I get a feeling that we'll get something from all of them. I just don't think we'll get what we were asking for, and I think that's okay. That's my personal how I feel with these local grants. I do think it's important to these local people that we're asking for,
mhm.
so I think that we'll get something. But that's just my opinion.
Well, we'll see.
I have nothing to base that on.
We could place some bets. maybe. Okay,
Raise some money for the agency.
all right, we finished with the grant applications. They look good. Thank you again for all the effort you two put into them, because yeah, I know these things take a lot of time and energy. Okay. 304 West 7th Street infill review work session. Who is going to,
That's my deal.
I'll start off by presenting this.
okay,
So we have the applicant, Kathy Ross, online with us. So this will be a work session today to discuss this proposed infill project and provide preliminary comments to the applicant prior to their submittal for a COA application. I've been working with Kathy on this project, had 2 pre-application meetings, and we saw there was an opportunity on the agenda today. We're gonna have some time, so we thought we'd go ahead and throw this on here, take this opportunity. It was probably the design probably at a good point where the HPC could provide some preliminary comments for Kathy hands this over to her architect for the more detailed design. So as the HPC may be aware, this property at 304 West 7th Street did receive a certificate of appropriateness for demolition of the existing structure. So this would be proposed proposed new single family residence with an accessory dwelling unit. So as I mentioned, I've had 2 pre-application meetings with the applicant, and I've provided just initial comments, preliminary comments to Kathy on the initial design. What you're seeing on the screen is her proposed revision and her response to the preliminary comments. On page 44 of your packet, I just copied and pasted my original comments to Kathy, and then I put up the my bolded comments in regards to this revision. So you can kind of see the progress. I just want to kind of demonstrate that the applicant is working with staff and responding to comments, and there's been several improvements from staff perspective with this second round of design. So the main points that I wanted to review tonight would be the roof form and the front facade. Policy 9 in the residential infill guidelines and standards does allow for hip roofs. The previous design was primarily a gable roof. But that policy 9 does allow for both, gable, hip, and actually also shed is the dominant roof form shapes. So as you can see here with this design, the dominant roof form is hip, and then there's kind of this, this secondary roof form or accent roof form of gable. And then you also have the shed roof over kind of bay window there, and then the gable roof over the front entry. That hip roof is oriented perpendicular to the street as is recommended by the standard. So I guess in general, staff is finding that it meets the letter of the law in terms of policy 9. Another improvement with this revised design is that the front like I said, as will appear from the street, is stepping down. The previous design had a gable roof that was perpendicular to the street, but it kind of extended directly out over the front entry. With this design, as the standards call for, you're stepping down from the hip roof to that larger gable kind of accent roof to the front entry roof, and then ultimately to the steps, which really creates this much more reduced perception from the street. And reduce mass and reduce scale. So I think that's a significant improvement. And then let's see here, those are the main 2 points that I wanted to note. So we would like to just get feedback from the commission tonight on the roof forms, the front elevation, and of course any other additional comments. As you'll see in the memo, I've gone through and just noted which comments I had previously that they're no longer out the door that have been addressed. With this design, primarily at this point, the progress is really just looking at the front of the building, the size of the building, in terms of windows and glazing. That the design has not progressed that far yet, so there's really no need to look into that yet. So I'll stop there. And I'll turn, since this is a work session format, it's informal, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Kati to provide any additional comments on the design, and then we can open it up for questions and comments for the HBC.
Thanks, Chapin. Yeah, just basically, we just want the house to look like it fits into the street and it doesn't look so imposing. And that was the concern that Chapin brought up and I was worried about too, because of the way we were trying to honor the fact that the old house has a cellar and then sort of we were mimicking the shape. It ended up looking almost like it was like 4 stories tall in the old design. And this design, we basically took 1 story, moved it down into a basement level, and then changed the roofing elements and got rid of the 1/2 story that was up in the attic. So it really reduced the overall scale. And I think the goal would be it almost the way that the gable roof looks on this design kind of looks so much like the old house, and then putting the 2nd floor on and hopefully choosing colors where that 2nd floor sort of looks recessed compared to the front facade would really just make it sort of not seem like such a drastic change from the old house. I know we're not supposed to be making a copy of the old house, but I guess I'd like to be a little bit inspired by it and honor the what used to be there or is still there but won't be there soon. And I don't really, I mean, we just did a complete redesign based on Chapin's comments, and I just want to state we're very open, very flexible. We really just want your feedback and to make the house look as good as it can in the space. So that's all I have to say.
Alex said, one additional thing, I did ask Kati to provide some pictures of some nearby structures in the neighborhood that had this kind of combination of hip and gable roof. And she did email those over to me. I can film up my laptop there. I think, as we go into the with the COA evaluation, I think, having a more detailed look at all those, existing structures, historic structures that have that combination of a gable roof in front of a hip roof, having that combination, I think is important to the conversation.
Is this house about the same place as the old house was, as far as on the lot?
It would come forward, and I don't have the exact measurements of how far forward the house is, currently. But, I believe we're looking, and this is an estimate, and until it's actually measured and put on there, I believe we're looking at 10 to 15 feet forward.
Okay. Does the HPC have any comments or questions?
Sorry for the format, and Scott, I know you probably can't see as well, but these were the pictures that Kati shared with me of other structures, existing structures that have this hip and gable roof combination.
Maybe put it in front of the owl. I don't know, Scott, maybe I'll be. Unless you want to jump on it.
Could you share your screen briefly, just to scroll through them? Is that possible, or?
Yes, Scott, I'll put these on the server, and then I'll have Lori share since she's running the meeting from her computer.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I think you guys have done a great job of maximizing square footage as well as keeping it to kind of the old school look. And that, yeah, especially since it's elevated so much, it'll look very similar to, I think, everything. And if you guys remember, it's on that big hill.
Yeah.
So I think from the street, it's gonna look very similar to the rest of the houses on there. Chapin, you pointed out something about a potential problem with the design because of the accessory dwelling unit. Is the basement the accessory dwelling unit?
It's both, actually. It's interesting. I'm sorry, the main residence would be the upper floor and the lower floor. And then the ADU would be the middle floor, and there's a stairway that is connected between the two. Between the upper floor and the lower floor, which is completely separated from the ADU, which has its own entrance on the back. Did I represent that correctly, Kati?
Yeah, the ADU, because we need it to be ADA not compliant, but friendly because of my parents' age. We want it on the main floor with no stairs, and so it can be accessed from the back of the property without having to go up any stairs, and that it can all be on one floor. So we would we'd build around them basically, and we would take the top floor and the basement for my husband and I.
Well, what's the definition of an accessory dwelling unit? Because, I mean, this is all an integrated structure. It's not like there's a separate building out back or anything like that. So if they hadn't told you that it was an accessory dwelling unit, would you even know?
Well, on the floor, so I review floor plans, and so when the last point is when it goes to a building permit application, the applicant is required to submit floor plans, and I do review and sign and stamp those. So if a space is, if it's separate from a separate living space from what appears to be the primary dwelling, I'll ask for clarification. Is this an ADU or is this not an ADU? Does it have a kitchen? Does it have its own separated sleeping space, living space, bathroom, etc.? And if the answer is yes, then the label is an ADU. If the answer is no, then I'll redline it or have that applicant put a note on there that it's not an ADU. But Kati is is proposing it as an ADU. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess so. I assume that an ADU would have to be a separate building. But, so there's a little bit of a problem here, right? Because of the size of the lot versus and what the number of structures you can have on that lot. according to what-
And so one thing that we haven't really discussed at the HPC level is the Planning and Zoning Commission has been working on a proposed code amendment, code amendment that's proposed by the Lake County Village Generations Policy Advisory Team, the PAC group. And that group came forward with some recommendations to P and Z on how to allow more units in Leadville. And one of the recommendations was to remove the density limitations. That has now progressed into an increase in the density limitations. So that has yet to happen, but I've told Kati that that is expected that P and Z will be reviewing a proposed code amendment over the next few months that will potentially increase density limitations to allow accessory dwelling units on properties. But it's not finalized yet.
So you're concerned because it was 1/10 of an acre, is that the existing rule, or is that what would be instituted?
That's the existing rule.
But that may go away.
The PAT recommendations, which the P and Z has preliminarily agreed upon, but they want to consider all the different impacts of increasing density, like parking impacts, is to increase density limitations to a minimum. I guess should probably say primarily to allow for duplexes and ADUs, in addition to single family residences in our like primarily like our residential zones, like the R2 district.
So maybe,
That ultimately has to get approved by city council.
so to avoid holding up this project, can we make an exception or anything like that, or is that something that we have no control over?
So a space can be legally approved administratively for a building permit, without all the things that make it an accessory dwelling unit. So if someone comes in and they say, I'm gonna have, my intention is to make this an accessory dwelling unit in the future, but it's not going to be accessory dwelling unit right now. They can carpet it, drywall install, insulation, drywall, electrical, et cetera. They can plumb it for for gas and water, et cetera. But on the plans, they will be required to say this is not an ADU and it does not contain, a kitchen. If it's not labeled, then I can redline or I can ask them to label it. And then at some point in the future, if density is increased and an accessory dwelling unit is then allowed on the property, then they can apply for, even if it's during the construction process, when it gets that density increase gets approved, then they can, apply for a plan modification, plan revision, to substitute a sheet that shows that the ADU has, or that space that the kitchen is now proposed as an ADU.
But basically, that's not under our purview.
That's not under HPC.
No, I mean, we just look at what's there and
Yeah.
whether it fits and et
Exactly.
cetera. Okay.
Okay, so if I went off on a tangent, I'm sorry. I noticed that you had commented on that.
Right, I kind of tried to separate my comments into historic preservation comments and then zoning comments, but I did want to include that, for context.
Okay, well, now I understand what's going on too, because it wasn't clear. I thought it was the basement or the lower level that was going to be the ADU.
Right, and Kati provided a link to a pretty cool website that shows kind of a 3D rendering. Give me 1 second, I'm gonna reload this, but this really helped me understand. I'll bring this up to as the student works. But really it helped me understand how the primary residence would be on the first and third floor, but not on the middle floor, and that the ADU would be on the middle floor. So essentially, see if I can navigate this. Upstairs, primary residence, downstairs, primary residence, and then this is the wall that separates the ADU.
Cool.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, downstairs to make coffee, I can't imagine that.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if I can
That's gonna
put
be
that from the owl for,
Sorry, Scott.
I'm gonna try
That's
this.
pretty good.
Getting there.
Oh, yeah, I can kind of see it.
Very good.
I'm not gonna touch it, but I might mess anything up.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah, so it just wraps around.
great.
Cool idea.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay. So we can do this, however, after we're done with questions, but ultimately, I think the feedback is, in the questions that are numbered at the bottom of the memo in your packet, is the commission supportive of the building's roof complying with, I think, policy 9, and then, and also is the commission supportive of just the front design. I think the one thing that we want to discuss, and where you mind putting up the 3D renderings, is, this is on a sloped site, which the model, at this point in time is not really going to represent. But this is on a slope site that drops down, from the back, it drops down towards the street. And the lower level is behind what is, shown there, behind the steps and those 2 little windows in the bottom left, behind the stone veneer facade there. And that the ceiling of that is a deck that protrudes out. So, in the traditional sense of a primary building facade, what you're showing blue there, three windows in the bay window area in the front entry, that is recessed behind what is the lower level, which is extending, protruding out in the front, which has a deck on top of it. So I think it's important to just consider that arrangement as part of your feedback to the applicant tonight before they proceed with the COA application.
Well, it seems in a traditional structure here in Leadville that something like that would have a roof over it.
And seeing there's just the roof over the doorway area, and it doesn't come out over the porch, like you're saying, okay? Good point.
You seem like you're having a hard
It's like
time.
watching those films where it's about halfway down, I'm so funny.
Yeah, there wouldn't have been any way to keep that basement dry originally with turn of the century construction. Now they can keep that dry, so it's not quite as important, but it would look a little different to have an exposed front porch.
Maybe pulling at least a roof out over the entryway.
I think it looks really good the way you're doing it. I don't see any problem. You've solved your snow shed problem from the hip roof. And, there's not if you don't want a covered porch and you've engineered it properly, there's no need to have a covered porch. You just have to have a good shovel. But it looks in keeping with that part of the neighborhood. I think it looks great.
I'm just commenting on how it fits with the architecture of the older buildings in town.
Yeah, it would stand out from having a exposed porch. But now in Leadville, especially in this neighborhood, there are a lot of front decks or porches that extend out past that are much newer. So it's not gonna look that much different than what's in the neighborhood already. Mostly with people just building decks on the front of their houses, which would give it that same type of look.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
I just wanted to point out that in the residential infill guidelines in 11D, the guidelines say the use of a porch is encouraged, and it says a porch should be covered by a roof, but it doesn't say shall, so it's encouraged but not required.
mhm.
So, I mean, I'm open to the idea of extending the entryway to make it have a little more covered porch area there. I just know that my mom, working around my mom, she really wanted like full light to come in those windows there, so I didn't want to cover the porch in front of her windows, but pulling a covered porch over the front door could maybe make that look more historic without compromising the light in the main living area.
I have a comment about the 3 windows too. At least on my house, and I think on a lot of historic Leadville houses, that sort of structure would actually extend out, and the 3 windows wouldn't be lined up one against another. One would be on the front, and then there would be walls that are sort of diagonal to that, and there would be windows on that too. So that they wouldn't be three in a row the way they are now. There'd be one on the front, one on a diagonal wall on the left, and one on a diagonal wall on the right. I'm probably not describing it very well.
More like a bay window?
Yeah.
Is that what you described? Okay. That we see more around.
I don't know, there may be some houses in Leadville with this sort of structure, but I can't think of any.
I want to see, I feel like the current structure is where I got the 3 window look, but I think it might actually just be a 3 pane, like one big window with 3 giant panes. But I just know that in the infill guidelines, there was sort of it was discouraged to have big windows like that, like big sheets of glass. So I can look at the picture of the current home. But I thought it currently had a flat front with 3 big panes.
One consideration regarding the bay window is that there's under policy 11 building components. It says that projecting elements, and it gives us examples like dormers, bays, stairs, chimneys, cornices, etc. Help provide visual interest to a building and can influence its perceived scale. These features shall be compatible in size, shape, and type with those found historically.
And what are the right words? Using the 3 individual windows across the front there is meeting the idea. The fact that all of the windows were much smaller historically, having them across there. A bay window is a feature that you find on a lot of the big Victorians, but this isn't, you want it to look in keeping, you don't want it to be a mimicry. You're not trying to recreate a Victorian, you're trying to create something that fits in. Those 3 windows, the way they're drawn, absolutely meets the idea there.
Especially as opposed to the big plate window glass.
Which you couldn't build as a
Right.
Victorian,
And they
all of the
ask
windows were smaller and
Separate
more
them out.
appropriate in size.
Small, yeah.
So having that bump out suits, forgive me, I can't think today. It works very well and is not trying to replace a bay window.
That's
It also gives you quite a bit more usable square footage inside the house. It's an easier room to use.
true. That bay window cuts off the corners.
Yeah.
I can send a picture of the current home to
That's
to
okay.
Lori, if
I
you want
can
to put it
ask.
up, but it is a big three pane, really large sort of plate glass front window.
And that's
Um,
obviously one that was added later,
Yeah,
but got a picture I can pass around now.
He's got a picture, Connie, that's fine, thank you though.
okay,
Mhm.
And that bay window they're trying to
Yeah.
that they're trying to mimic is a later addition anyway on that.
Yeah, so you said that's an add-on.
So having the 3 individual windows is a great improvement.
Well, if they're gonna remain with the design as it is, I think I'd personally prefer to see 3 separate windows, the way it's shown there, rather than one window is.
And traditionally, it would have been 3 individual smaller windows, right, just like the front of yours. Yeah, that would be more in keeping.
Yeah, so the design as it is now, rather than, it sounds like it maybe has changed, but I think this design is probably more appropriate.
Any other questions or comments?
Only other thing, and your rendering, I know is only a rendering. But if you're doing the lap siding, the horizontal lap siding like you've shown there in blue,
Mhm.
keeping it to a smaller width will help it fit in better with the older homes. Most of the older
Okay.
homes in these neighborhoods are about a 5.5 inch width. So lots and lots of laps. Current materials will allow you to go up to something like 12 inches, but that ends up being a much more modern look. So if you and your architect or your designer can look at doing smaller laps, that will really help make it fit in with the other historic homes right there.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
it does, it makes sense. And we haven't, just for the record, we have not chosen our colors yet. So those were just the colors that I took an hour choosing a million colors on this designer, and I don't actually like them. So we still haven't figured that out.
And is the lower level, are those walls going to be made of stone or?
Yeah. Yeah, we will clad them in stone. I'm not sure exactly what stone veneer. Something that fits in.
Okay,
Looks good.
Yeah.
Scott, did you have any thoughts?
No, nothing beyond what's been stated. I did want to thank the applicant for going through this process. I think it's going to be eventually a great addition to the historic district.
Thanks. Yeah, I just want to say, when I first started working on this, I don't think Chapin was working with you all, and it's just really great that you have someone that can give you feedback and help us to make sure that we're making it the best for Leadville, but also works for us. It's a really good process.
good to hear.
We're all glad she was here.
All right, thanks, Connie. So just to summarize, it sounds like the commission is generally supportive of the proposed roof forms, roof design, and generally supportive of the front facade. Were there any comments on the circular window that's?
I can't believe you guys didn't say anything about
That's
that.
Circular window absolutely it works great.
okay.
Mhm, I like it.
Anything to add some interest, especially in a different dimension there, that
Okay,
you'll find that all over the area.
okay,
Yeah, so that's actually a very good addition.
all right. Any comments on the sides of the building in just, you have essentially a 2-story form on the sides? And any comments on it stepping down on the sides? I think the, Connie's still working on the side, so that's not finalized at this point by any means, but one comment that I had just in one of our pre-application meetings was if there were any side door entries, particularly on the north side, to have some roof coverings, even some shed roof coverings, it would kind of break up the sidewalls on the east and west side of the home. But not to a point where they're extending out so far that they would, impact, shading of windows, which provide that solar gain, particularly on the south side.
Yeah, and we don't have any side entries planned at this time, just because it's, a narrow lot, but there still could be the potential to do some, shed awnings over some windows just to break it up, like you're saying.
Any thoughts on that?
All right. Well, thank you. I think that's it from staff. Connie, do you have anything else?
No, just one, I guess I do have one thing. The way that the front deck looks in this rendering, after kind of going through all the measurements of the actual floor plan, it doesn't actually come out as far as it does in this rendering. So it won't really protrude quite as far, because we don't want to use up that much of our lot. We want to have a good front yard, so.
Okay,
Thank you, Connie.
Thanks, Scotty.
Thank you.
thank you. We look forward to hearing you when we come back to the real thing.
Right, an official.
Yep.
Exciting.
So that house on the back side, pretty slow time.
On the back side,
It doesn't matter for us, but it'll be a full 3 stories over that downhill side on the back.
and that's where we're looking at right now, we're looking at, you can see it from the street.
Right.
Right, so it would be, yes, it would be.
A base.
It would appear as almost 3 stories, yeah. I don't know what the dimension of the, of the stone from top to bottom is there. Maybe Kati knows, but I mean, but you're seeing windows, so some of that might be variable over a few feet of that, but it's.
I think our
almost-
plan was hopefully for that to be 5 feet. The stone.
Yeah. Just be about how it's going.
Yeah.
Cool.
Does anybody have anything else to say or ask or? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm. All right, we are on to the 2023 goals.
I just don't know if you guys had time to gather them. I thought we would just take a few minutes to see if you had anything that you thought of and how many overlapped to other commissioners, and if we could just pull 3 or 4 out of that to work on, I could get going on the annual plan, so.
Well, I have a suggestion for something we should be working on this year. One of the presentation that Marcia and I both went to at Saving Places, one of the suggestions and looking at grant proposals and what they ask, would actually strengthen our grant proposals is more diversity on this commission. And, we don't represent the population of Lake County that well
Mhm.
with our current makeup, and we should be recruiting potential future members. Or maybe somebody's gonna leave in the next year and could be replaced with somebody who represents the parts of our population that we aren't representing. And also the idea that maybe get students involved, as adjuncts or something, so that they know what's going on, we get their input from a younger group of people, and also they're being groomed for the future.
And maybe that'll be easier if we become more visible and people see what we're doing and we can kind of identify people.
Yeah, well, sending out the descriptions of the surveys in Spanish is going to help.
Mhm.
Great.
Which FYI, I got just one more, translator, given to me, and I sent out an email today to them to see what the costs were on that, so we will just have one, so. But, yeah, definitely something we're gonna do. I think that's a great idea, Steve.
I could also reach out to the high school and see if there's a teacher there who teaches a class where the kind of work that you do might fit into one of their sections for the semester. And perhaps there's some opportunity for some connection there.
The high school starting this year is doing an internship program that they're requiring for juniors and seniors, if I'm remembering correctly. But that might be a way to, they're already looking to have all of these juniors and seniors come out into the community and intern or visit the meetings.
Right.
So there might be some play in it. I mean, something, it might be an easier thing to do that.
Yeah.
But it seems like,
Okay.
and they're starting that program just this year. Local businesses and things like this. I don't know how it would work, but they're already trying to place these students to get out into the community as part of their school year.
Okay.
Another thought I had is with these historic revitalization grants that are available through Colorado Preservation Inc. We talked a while ago about the building that the Chinese restaurant is in and what horrible shape it's in. And these, seems like this type of grant, good for over $200,000 up to a lot more, could potentially really help revitalizing that building. And that might be another thing we could think about for this year, is reaching out to the owner of the building and making sure that this grant opportunity is known. I think I got the impression that if the HPC really got behind a project like that, that it might get funded.
There's a new owner, isn't there?
No, it's the same owner, it's
It's the son of
the son, but the people are the people, the parents.
His mom came in, right?
Right, he's left the country and they are, what is that? I wanna say proxy, and that's not what I mean, more like an attorney, in fact. They're in charge of the building while he's out of the country, so they're making all the decisions, but they don't have the money to do what they need to do. So I know Nancy has been big on talking to her about getting grants, but it's Eileen Jacobs, remember, she's come to our meetings several times, just kind of seeing how things go, and I think that's a great idea, because that building is not gonna get anything done unless it's grant funded.
Well, and they were looking for grants just to be able to do a evaluation on the building. So I don't know where funds stand, but they were trying to raise money just to be able to have somebody tell them what needed to be done.
I think that's a great idea, if we were to do something like that revitalization grant and that grant does kind of go like one of the National Park Service grants, where we're the holders of the money, and there's a sub-grant type situation where they give us the money to do certain things that meet that criteria. But a building on Harrison, I just can't imagine us not getting some kind of grant to do something like that. So I think that one revitalization grant is a really good one that I will reach out to Nancy and see if she can't get in touch. And I might even ask Eileen myself, because she's on the email list for all the HPC meetings. So we could just get more in touch with her personally with the HPC and see if we can't get, but that's a great idea. And it should happen soon. So that's a this year thing.
Yeah, that building actually has open holes on the roof.
It's getting scary.
Something's gonna happen.
It's getting scary that it's just gonna collapse and
Yeah.
it's a really nice building. I mean, obviously it's
Is it
nice
really
building, it's
ready
historic.
to collapse?
It's a,
It's-
I'm very nervous.
the apartments are almost not inhabitable at this point. So it's kind of like the back of the Manhattan building. It's been that go way too long. So something needs to happen, some remediation needs to happen just to keep it from getting worse.
Well, should they be, keeping people from living there? Is it that bad?
It's been a while since I've been up there. I don't have any idea. I wouldn't want to be in the back of the Manhattan building. That always looks like it's about to collapse to me, but
Mhm.
Which building?
people live there, the Manhattan building,
Oh, I know,
the back.
the back side of it.
Yeah, I went in the Manhattan, during one of our walks a while back, and there's some really cool architectural and lighting features in there that have never, luckily, it would cost too much to screw them up, so they've all been left there.
Mhm.
We could make a really neat walk, whether it's a bars and saloons or just historic buildings in downtown Leadville, just like your basement, there's some really neat stuff here that people would love to be able to see,
Mhm.
that nobody knows about. I mean, just the lighting in the Manhattan looks a lot like the lighting in the Tabor Upper House.
Mhm.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
I've never been in Manhattan.
Now that you've been to Tabor a couple of times, stick your head in the Manhattan. and
I've
look at the
never been
ceiling.
in Manhattan.
I swear it's the same.
Well,
I would swear it's the same lighting design.
Wow, that's so
It's kind of
interesting.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's still
well,
there and could be made. to
now
work.
that is up for sale though,
It is.
It is.
so there's a better chance, well, if somebody buys it.
Yeah.
I think part of the problem is the price they're asking on top of the repairs that are needed, it's
Mhm.
probably not gonna sell unless they lower that price. This is an awful lot of
Well,
work.
they've cut the price in half already.
Oh,
Yeah,
how
they
much?
just, their timing with the economy and everything has been tough.
What block would you say, what is it, the seventh? And Harrison, the Chinese restaurant?
No,
No.
Fifth Street.
Fifth. I knew I was way off, I was trying to,
2 blocks.
Yeah, Fifth Street.
I
And,
get my blocks confused.
Yeah.
And I'll say something like, it's right next to Quincy's and it's 2 blocks away.
yeah, East Fifth.
This is 7.
This is 8,
Oh, that's.
that's why I only went 1 block away.
It's better-
I didn't
it's
go-
better than me. Yeah.
Fourth Street is the bank, so it's safe to
It
say.
is. Yeah.
Well, that certainly would give us a lot to do in 2023.
Yeah, and you can start on those 2, and that is a lot, that's more than we realize, actually.
We're talking about goal setting, right?
Yes,
So what we spent all of February doing is working on filling out these grant applications that we decided on in January. So January is fundraising month,
Mhm.
trying to set it up for getting ready for these middle spring deadlines. And February is fill in the blanks for all of our grant funding, based on what we've done so far this year.
right, and I'm keeping note of that, so that by the end of the year, we can almost have that's, absolutely agree with that, but we also wanna make sure that we include things that we were wanting to do. And I think I mentioned this to Marcia, things like you were wanting to get stickers or little business cards that had a little more information on the HPC out to some realtors and to some other places at the building department, whatever, things like that. And going through this grant process, I haven't wanted to spend a single dime. So that's not something I've pursued, but I do wanna put on the next agenda that we, in the 2 meetings in March, we get some things figured out for April History Month. Because we're gonna wanna do something and we're gonna have to give ourselves some time. So if we wanna spend a little bit of money on some stickers or something like that.
We don't
for
have
that.
any, we don't have any money, though.
Well, we
Oh,
do,
we
but
do.
we do have more money than we've ever had.
Oh.
So we have like $5,000 in our budget,
Oh, that's the new budget,
but
yeah.
but with any of this matching stuff, I just didn't want to dip in at all, because obviously our priority is gonna be these surveys. And making sure we have enough money to cover any kind of matches that we need to make. So that's why I haven't done anything as far as spending money except for saving places.
And for April, Preservation Month, we still have lots of our placards.
Mhm,
Oh, absolutely.
So we have something at least that we
Signs.
can work with.
mhm.
Sticks, all of that, plenty,
Without having to spend any more
Without
money,
having
that
to
stuff
spend
is
any
already sitting.
yes. And if we wanted to get a sticker to put on that, we could, but again, we've got something that we don't have to spend any money on.
Maybe just having those placards up and down Harrison Avenue, like everybody puts their brochures just for the month of April. Maybe we could make a bumper sticker or something that could go across the bottom of the placards and then ask the businesses to put them in the window just for the month. Just to point out
It's a good idea.
yeah, just to point out the buildings and create a little bit of awareness, and it would be free to us to do.
Well, that's something that we should do, definitely.
A lot of organizations are now making their flyers and, you know, instead of it promoting an event anymore, a lot of the things that I'm putting up at our shop are, it's such and such awareness month. And they'll ask you to put it up for a full month. And most of the shops do it for free and they're already doing it, so I bet they would listen to us as well,
Especially along Harrison, I think.
Mhm.
specifically on here.
Yes.
Okay. Any other thoughts on, I wonder if we could get some of these people that own these buildings. I mean, like, when the Manhattan, when and if it's ever sold, I wonder if we could ask them to come in and talk about their plans, and we could get the guy from the Chinese restaurant building, what's the name of that building?
I know, I keep forgetting the name of the building too.
That's not the name of it.
No, it has an old name from historic time, but I don't know.
It's not Emmett, is it?
I
I can picture it, but I can't see.
think, I just can't remember. I know I've seen it, because I've done enough research on it, that it has a name, I just can't remember.
They may not, want to feel like they want to come and talk to us at this point, but I don't know. It'd be nice to hear from you.
I think they would, I think they might, I think it's worth asking. Never hurts to ask, but it's not a requirement, we just ask.
You mean just for like an update?
What their plans are, if they have any plans.
It'd be interesting to approach a few people and see who'd be willing to do that, because I'd love to see what the current plans are now for the building next to Cycles of Life, where they've been working on the interior
Yeah,
of that
yeah.
now for 2 years.
2 years.
They've got to be getting pretty close, and I think they're gonna try to open up this summer, not this spring now, but this summer. But I bet they'd come and talk to us as well.
Well, it would be good to hear from people who are in the process of doing something.
Yeah. That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
COA, I mean, they're working, they're doing that project under a COA, so I don't know why
Give us an update. Yeah.
Arnold just asked.
I mean, we
if they
would,
could come.
can't force them to come in, but.
Right.
They might
They might-
appreciate the interest.
Right.
Yeah,
And I
And
can
it'd be,
reach out.
it'd be neat, because the more we know, the more we can talk about it and talk it up.
Mhm.
So it only benefits them.
right.
And I can reach out to Matt Delaney, he's the owner,
Mhm.
Yeah.
that new coffee roastery thing.
It's like that damn motel down at the end of the street who's gonna do a mural. What's going on there?
Yeah, yeah. Talk to those people.
No pressure.
Spring.
We thought we were gonna see a mural.
I know, it's
Got approved.
our artists kind of flaked out at the end of last summer, so we had to wait till spring now, because we didn't want to paint it in the winter.
Well, imagine.
Yeah.
You didn't want to freeze somebody out.
No.
Cool.
Just doing it.
And on the
Yeah.
packet, I did include more information on that Paul from, I'm sure I'm not saying it right, historic revitalization grants, because I hadn't gotten enough information. And you mentioned it from After Saving Places, so I got as much information as I could on that and just included it in your packet. Feel free to do any more research you want, but it's something we need to look at, just the same as that other grant, which to me is a year or two down the road, but getting something like a National Parks Survey or Services grant and be a sub-grant person, so that just all the city council members talking about how do we help people fund their revitalization of their historic home? If we had that grant program where we could, give out some money to specific projects, that would be very helpful to our community, and that's something we need to look into the next couple of years. I don't know
Yeah,
much.
one idea I had for that Bruin revitalization grant, not necessarily anytime soon, but if we wanted to apply for one for the revitalization of historic outbuildings in the historic district, and then give, small grants, Joey might know an appropriate amount, help people sort of stabilize those, and make sure that they don't come to us saying that they're falling down and want to demolish them.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay. Well, anything else?
I would like to give an update on the NHL code amendments.
Okay, yeah, where are we on that?
Lori, I have a PowerPoint that I presented to city council last week on the folder. If we wanna, just drop it in there, if we wanna pull that up, that might just, help provide a visual, but it did give the city council an update on the proposed plan, for just basically to split the code amendments into 2 ordinances, one to be focused on the 6-month demolition loophole, and then one to be focused on the increased applicability. And I mean, I think the purpose for splitting these into 2 ordinances would be twofold. One, you know, we do have a demolition moratorium out there, so now the council is generally supportive of addressing the 6-month demolition loophole. Then that, you know, we would like to fast track that as quickly as possible, and then we can lift the demolition moratorium. The second reason would be, I would like them to do some public engagement, because I think we want to clarify that message to the public before we go to city council, you know, in final ordinance format, public hearings. We'll clarify that message to the public that, you know, the goal, the intent of all this is to provide a checkpoint for regulation for projects that are, you know, outside of the retail core. And then, you know, our additions, exterior modifications are commercial, but so we have to, so to speak, start having that checkpoint, but then also to create a very, you know, non-cumbersome process for homeowners who are just looking to update their homes and maintain their homes. And they wanted to re-roof with a different material, or do different siding, or do different types of windows that are more energy efficient. And we have a very simple, you know, 1-page over the counter online process for that. So really trying to find that balance between having some kind of checkpoint, but also making it easy for affordability and for home maintenance. So I think that would be the purpose of the public engagement sessions. We just clicked through a couple of those slides, so that was what I presented to council, you know, where we are at so far in terms of the timeline, how many public meetings we've been at. And then this would be the purpose of the open houses. So I guess one question for, could you go back? I think there's a schedule, a draft schedule. So this is like, yeah, exactly, thank you. This is the best case scenario, I think. And I think this would probably realistically be a month or 2 longer than is shown right here. Especially because the city council last week did request that we go back to city council with red lines before we go to planning and zoning commission. And that was coming from Councilmember Green specifically regarding this ordinance A, the 6-month demolition loophole. All the feedback we've gathered so far, basically we're gonna have to take that and get that to the city attorney to put that into red lines. So they have requested that before we proceed any further regarding ordinance A.
Oh, yeah. Already did what they were trying to do.
Yeah, so,
That's why I got the moratorium.
but other than that, the council was generally supportive of this plan. So the plan is get with the city attorney on those red lines, get those back to city council, then get that into to ordinance format, go to 3 public hearings, or I guess 2 public hearings, planning and zoning commission, and then city council. And then the question I have for HPC is regarding this ordinance B, which is the increasing the applicability section. For these public engagement sessions or these open houses, I think it's a good idea to have more than one in case somebody misses the first, have another one at least a few weeks later or a month later. Do we want to have those open houses at HPC during your meetings?
Why not?
Yeah.
Is it something we could run an ad in the paper for?
Yeah, and city council, that was one of the other point, city council recommended doing as much public notification as possible for these open houses.
And the mayor can put it, he has something, I think, once a month in the newspaper that says what's upcoming, what the city's doing. We can put it in that. We can also definitely run an ad ourselves. I mean, we want as much of the public engaged in this. I mean, I'm even thinking maybe at one, we should have maybe an interpreter. Maybe try to get
Sure.
a different, group of people in here that don't normally come, just making sure we announce that we might have an interpreter, so if they have any questions. I just want to make sure to Steve's point, diversity is not something we are right now, and we really need to try and make a good faith effort to reach some of the people that don't even know we exist. Something to think about. I also think that at our next meeting, I had that on the agenda, was plan these public meetings, these open houses, as well as planning our April. I think it's perfect to have one of these during April, during our history month. And
That would be a great way to encourage preservation month.
Exactly.
And the more public we can make it with these newspaper ads, the more pressure we're putting on city council to see it favorably.
Right.
And if we're gonna have an open house, we should try to make it interesting. I mean, maybe have a 15-minute presentation on preservation in general, or some of the houses here, or I don't know, just something historic.
Showing some before and after pictures of the Stites house over here, or, just some different things to let them, I think.
Leadville will turn out for history
Well,
Yeah.
things.
Yes.
we could do just three things. We could do a real quick presentation on the Tabor Opera House's preservation. We could do one on your building, and we could do one on the funeral home.
Oh, yeah.
Just real quick before and afters would fill that 15 minutes and be of interest to everybody in town.
And I think, I think you're right, because people
And
really
they don't
love
have
the
to be
history.
anything other than the front of the building. It
Right.
doesn't have to include anything else. But
Mhm.
there would be a really easy way, and those are all very big, very public, very Main Street
Noticeable,
projects
And see. by
that are
us.
done. So we absolutely already have before and after available.
I was thinking about the library used to, when we had a different librarian,
Jen,
used to have, when Janice was there too, they used to do all these programs on history, and they'd be free, and they'd be packed in there,
maybe we could get Janice to come and speak.
Well, Janice, I think, well, I probably could talk to her about that.
She would be great.
I mean, she could also talk about Jewish Leadville history, which is really interesting, and,
Yeah.
I mean, there's all those famous rich people were Jewish back in the day.
No,
But-
she's doing a really good job at the museum.
Mhm.
But yeah, that would be an easy thing and
It
might
Get
create some.
people. to
Yeah.
come.
Yeah, well, and then we could get Sarah to come from the table, we could get Nancy to come from the,
Man, yeah.
no, sorry, from
Mortuary,
the
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Bailey's, and then you can certainly speak to your building if you want to. But that would be an easy way to get some public engagement, or at least get something that would be interesting to the
Mhm.
public.
Yeah, I think, something short but
Yeah,
interesting.
before and after Leadville, without.
Can we tentatively do that schedule that for April 11th? I think that would be a perfect time, you've got that in your list, but that's our HPC meeting, that's the first meeting we have in April.
It's six weeks from today, and I think that would give you enough time to get stuff in the paper.
Right.
What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, all this sounds good. Doing it at that first meeting in April, and your general plan for trying to engage people with a little presentation, strikes me as a good idea.
Did you have any other plans, for April that you had thought of?
The only, earlier Joey mentioned potential use for our placards in windows on Harrison. Are we planning to do awards again for projects approved in 2022?
Good question.
If we do, maybe we would want to order new placards that have our logo on them for this year. Maybe we can use our current placards just for an awareness campaign on Harrison Avenue for April. We have a lot of them, and it would be nice if we do new ones with awards to do ones with our new logo on them.
Or we could get stickers and.
Or put stickers on our current
Yeah,
website, sure. Just
Whichever.
trying to figure out how to do something quickly without spending any money.
Mm.
That was my only thought.
My thought was, would there be food?
There can be.
I mean,
We can make sure that, that's a drawing, that's a drawing card there, you get people to come in when you offer food,
Mhm.
and it also, makes it a little more casual when you have, refreshments or whatever, it doesn't make it more of a meeting, it makes it truly an open house, so,
mhm.
yeah, we can definitely do something like that.
I mean, that costs money too, but
Yeah, but we can do that cheaply, and that's not thousands of dollars like we're talking about these grants, so
mhm.
definitely do that.
So, I'll just open the invitation, if there's any material, any suggestions, any verbiage that you would like to, I guess, have incorporated into in that open house packet. Just, please email that to me if you have any ideas or, suggestions. I think how I'll probably try to do this is going into April 11th, so that Friday before, I'll try to gather all that and just include the open house presentation material, the slideshow in the packet. So at least the HPC has that as part of the public record, and then we can essentially just click through that and present that. So like, any images, any text, any verbiage, any suggestions you have, just go ahead and bring it to me.
Does it all have to be in that? I mean,
Ideally, I think we would want to have everything into the packet that Friday before.
It's a regular meeting for us, so we still need to have the packet and have everything that we'll be discussing in that packet, so it would be best
But
to
I'll
have it all by then.
I'll plan to put together a presentation that has, that explain, why we're doing this, what the advantages of this are, what the, potential, implications are, how this would affect, property owners, those sorts of things. So that, all our cards are out, people can clearly understand what's being proposed.
but you don't want the presentations like on our building and the Tabor and the other to be part of that.
I think the mention regarding the slideshow, like before and afters, like these are some examples of, of historic preservation. in
Okay.
Leadville. I think that's great, is introducing that. I mean, before we get to the technical code amendments, but just talking about historic preservation of Leadville, I think
Okay.
that'd be great.
And I don't think we necessarily need those in the packet because all of those are in previous packets, so it's just kind of letting people know that we're involved in it, so that could just be a presentation of its own in that.
Just an introduction to
Right.
the packet.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot going on.
So we'll mark April 11th for
An open house.
open house, number 1. And then I believe it was May.
Took my thing down, sorry. May 9th, was it, or?
I'm looking at this really quick.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
I'm trying to say the 23rd.
Now, if we do this during our regular meeting time, that's not the best time to have an open house, starting at 4 in the afternoon.
Well,
We can do it at 5.
I mean, because people are working.
we could have our meeting first
Mhm.
and then.
Then
have
have the
the
open house,
at
yeah.
5 And do it that way, then get our business stuff taken, care of before the massive crowds
Mhm.
arrive.
5 p.m.
5
Yeah.
PM is better than 4, yeah.
Okay, could also do 6 p.m., make it more, available for people who are. Essentially, the HBC meeting could possibly go from 5 to 7 or something like
I
that.
mean, we could do that too.
Yeah.
Do we have another meeting that night, though? There's always a council or anybody?
We're on off schedules right now, we're completely off weeks. One of the things for the next 2 or 3 months, we're completely off weeks, so, one of the things I was thinking about was maybe, the first one having it 4 or 5, and then the second one having it not start till 6 or 6:30, to catch those other people that aren't back up the
Mhm.
mountain or whatever after work. And have the other one later and have one earlier, just to try to help make sure we get, as many people as we can.
And it'll be available via Zoom also.
Right, have a Zoom option on, yeah. can finalize this at the next meeting, it's,
Hmm.
you know, we're still, this is just the end of February, we still have, we can finalize this at the next meeting
Mhm.
in March to get ourselves prepared for April.
As far as timing, I will want to get everything into the paper for
Right.
the next meeting.
I have somebody who potentially could bake cookies for us and is pretty reasonably priced, and we're interested in taking a look.
Probably, yeah, yes.
I'll see, she's about to have a baby, so I don't know whether she's
Oh,
gonna do it.
timing might be.
Timing might be bad, but
Who's
I'll
having-
send a message to you.
Okay.
Yeah, because she did a great job for us. And she's cheap.
Who's having the baby?
Bethany Riggs, Andrew Riggs' wife,
Okay.
Cheap is what we need, 'cause
and they're wonderful cookies. She does a great job. She did all
I
our
love-
Christmas cookies for our open house and did. a
I
great
love
job.
that.
Person, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
That would be easy.
that would, yeah,
So I'll see, maybe.
that'd be good.
All right, so we'll hold, Tuesday, May 9th for the open house number 2.
Nice.
Is just 30 days apart enough to satisfy city council, do you think?
I think so, I put that schedule in front
I
of.
saw that, and you said that that was a little bit of a condensed schedule, that was why I was asking.
Right,
It'd be great to keep it moving forward, but
right, I think we should keep moving forward, I don't see any reason not to stick to that schedule at this point. If something comes up, we'll let you guys know. I think this ordinance A schedule was the one that I think is gonna get postponed, so we'll have to see how the workload overlaps and everything once we push that out. Probably, but,
do you think they'll push that out? Huh?
well, it's not necessarily pushing it out, but I'm going to, before I go to planning and zoning commission on March 22nd, they want us to go back to city council and
With those red
with
lines.
the red lines, and I don't know that I'll be able to
There's not enough time to do
do
that.
that with Christiana in the next 3 weeks. And then go to city council,
And then, yeah,
and we have to have a
then
public hearing.
still make it back to March 20, that's not gonna happen.
So I think realistically, at a minimum, that
2
gets
weeks.
pushed out to where ordinance effectivity is mid-June at the earliest.
Right.
Okay. I'm trying to get all that done by mid-June, because I'm having a baby in beginning of July. So I'm trying to get a lot of this stuff done by July.
Oh, you'll never be awake again. You'll be sitting here.
So I'll just be like.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Well, are we finished discussing whatever we were discussing about the, open houses and
Whatever that was.
For goals, how many COAs did we do last year, do you think?
We have those stats.
I know we did, and I'm,
That's fine.
half as many as we did the year before, at least, that's about all I can
And
say.
there were twice as many projects going on this year. We're just not getting.
We're not getting,
in front of
yeah,
people.
yeah. I honestly can't remember.
At the next meeting, we'll be coming, in front of the HBC with a work session regarding interpretation, whether a shed is historic or not. Just an FYI, so that'll be coming up.
Back in
It's not an active COA, but it will, be basically a
It's
voluntary. work session.
pre-application meetings, I guess, you know, the mayor has such a good point. That's the pre-application meetings when they're voluntarily coming
Yeah.
before us.
Mhm.
The only time we can get design guidelines into their head and kind of say, you know, it'd be
Yeah.
really cool if you did this and
Oh,
better.
that's the
Because once it becomes quasi
one
judicial,
on 7th Street, East 7th Street.
So,
is it, yeah,
it's 8,
it's not, it's not.
Oh, the 300 block of 8.
yeah,
We're
I
trying to tear it down and build a garage.
believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I know which one that is.
So
I happen to be in the building department when they came up there with their plans, so
Okay.
I know for a fact they mentioned that they might have to come before us.
Yeah. So I just I've given them my interpretation, but I told them that I want to make sure that the HPC agrees before we proceed, so.
Do you want me to talk to Sarah and Nan about giving a presentation for those things, or does somebody else want to do that? I know them pretty well.
It's up to you, you certainly may, and I will probably be sending them an official type thing, once we get things a little more solidified, but if you'd like to talk to them
Just
first, that'd
chat
be
with
great.
them about,
Just
that's
see
me.
how they're
This may
feeling about
happen.
it.
And I don't even know that we necessarily want them to do the presentation, but
Hmm.
we'd want them to provide the materials for, a couple of before and after shots, just so that we could have, I think it might be nicer if one person did the presentation rather than having a bunch of people come up. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I think they would want to do it. is the
I
thing.
think they would
Probably would,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's fine if that's the case. And it could even just be those two buildings. That'd be great. It's just, if we're trying to keep it to 15 minutes. That's not a whole lot of time to do those. But just a couple of before and afters and a brief something or other would be a nice introduction to an
I
open
think
house.
people would find that interesting, yeah.
I think so too, and
But I-
it might draw some people. It
Mhm.
might draw some people in knowing that they were gonna be here to speak, I don't know.
No,
But I
that's-
could just
that's-
talk to them about what they think and
I
do they
think that
have
was
some.
great.
And
But
I
I,
think
would- but we don't need to leave the Herald Democrat out, just.
Come on, Joe, you're trying to hurt
No,
feelings.
not at
Well,
all.
I worked on that for 17 years.
That was not my intention, sorry.
No, but that's okay. I'll
Yeah,
ask them what they think. And
I think that was great.
Ideally, they could send us some slides and some talking points, and we could include it in the packet.
mhm.
And then we just have one PDF that's up on the screen, we can click through, and they can be more than welcome to come and present and go over their talking points and those sort of things, and then.
But they might just want to be here and,
Yeah.
introduce them and they could talk to
Yeah.
people during the
Individually,
Right.
absolutely,
house section.
Yeah.
right.
But I can talk to them. We'll see.
Looking up those statistics, I'm just clicking through this PDF on COAs for last
We
year.
just had to do that for a year and thing.
Yeah, we don't know. We can
Once I
get,
turned it in, I put it on, because I can only hold so many thoughts in there. And that report.
well, we could get deluged or we could not, we don't know.
Any given year, I mean, the difference in the last 2 years was crazy to me, so I've learned to expect the unexpected.
This entire document is oriented the wrong way.
Turn our heads sideways.
What do you think what do you guys think is the reason for having so many fewer COAs last year than the year before?
I thought it was materials, for the price of materials.
Prices have gone up.
Lumber went crazy at one point, and
Well, but there were twice as many people working on projects in the historic district this year than the year before. So twice as many things going on, but only half as many people being aware that we're here, maybe?
Maybe originally, because we reconstituted ourselves that first year, maybe that.
Well, and I think the first year, a lot of those people were people who were from here.
Mhm.
They weren't
right,
people who were new. And last year, a lot of these projects were new homeowners.
Yeah,
That just don't know about it, so they didn't even know to ask.
and I wonder if, if you give people that read code as part of their job, and if they read our code, they don't think they have to come before us, because code, the way it's written right now, as the mayor pointed out, that's not how we interpreted it all these last few years. But if they read the code right, if you're not on the retail board, you don't have to come before us for renovation.
It's
Now,
I just don't know how many people would read code, you know?
that's so true. I'm just thinking of, contractors and things that need to know that for their. I don't know,
I think an awful lot of stuff happened with no permits or anything.
that's what I think too,
Yeah.
and I don't want that to continue. I'm
very good.
it's kind of scary to think what level we come if a lot of that keeps happening.
Right.
I mean, we don't know what direction it's gonna take.
Yeah, tear down your house and then ask permission later if somebody asks a question.
Yeah.
We'll have to
that's-
send Kurt out. He's pretty good at finding these people who
He
are.
takes pictures too.
Yeah, he does.
But,
He needs to go on more walks. He'll do that. when he's
This last
I didn't, the council report did not include COAs.
Oh, shoot.
It just included building permits,
Okay.
just building permits and conditional use
See,
permits.
I have it in mind. I'll get you that number because I have it in
I'm
mind.
just curious. And we could set a goal along
Yeah,
that or
That's
something.
true. And I think the main point being taken here is people were doing it without coming before us. We've got to become
Yeah.
more visible. We've got to.
Yeah,
And that's
at one point, we were told that the city had, the police department had these guys going around
There's
and,
nobody.
and that.
That was back when Joe was here, Joe Schwires, our.
Yeah, when
code
Joe was one
enforcement
of them. I can't think of
officer.
the
He would.
name. But they're,
I got 2 or 3 emails a week about historic things, non-compliance things that involved us, and now that he's gone, there's no one to do that.
The community service officers in their current roles are essentially, doing police,
Yeah.
supporting the police department function, because the police department is down police officers.
Right, so you're
That's exactly
not
what
looking at this stuff at all.
So much
From
for
a code
that.
standpoint.
Ideally, your community service officer could be that, because they're a uniformed officer, and they can provide those citations. And I have asked the building department to require a demolition permit, which has not been previously required. I have yet to confirm and see an example of when that has been, I guess that has been enacted, but that request is in with the building department.
Okay. Anything else?